What is music? Music goes back to the beginning of recorded and unrecorded history, right back to, I imagine, primitive men who used it for all sorts of things. They maybe banged out a rhythm on the ground to frighten the animals into stampeding. They would bang on a tree to startle a bird out of the tree so they could get dinner. And those sounds they made were that early music. And I think the sounds of the human voice as humans began to speak, the tones of that. But what I'm fascinated with is, where does music come from? And there is a school of thought that if you think of, it's out there, music's out there. Somebody sits there, like you and I sitting here, and maybe you could think of a tune. Where is that? It's like I can see this room, I can see you, I can see the paper, I can see my hand moving. I can't see music.
I don't know, I mean, I could be walking, I live in the country, I could be walking across a field and a certain speed of wind could hit me in the face with a certain amount of moisture in it that would have happened back in 1962, and I would be thrown into 1962, and I'd write in that vein. Or you could be angered by something that happens on television, and then I go into my mobile home and I carry the anger, but not what I saw. And I could be angry towards somebody and I could write about them. The song wouldn't have come about, that song wouldn't have come about if I hadn't seen that television program, but the song has got nothing to do with the television program.
And there is a suspicion, a theory, that music is actually another dimension. If you think of parallel universes, and I think science are getting very close to solving that one, that we are nothing more than an independent universe within a series of parallel universes, that one of those universes may well be music, and that occasionally the universes touch and the music leaks into ours. And occasionally you find outpourings of music, like in the 17th, 18th century, when, Bach and Handel and Mozart and Beethoven, when they first began to create that music, maybe at that point they were able to just draw on that. And I don't know, but I just feel that music is something more than we actually think of it.
I would say I'm spiritual about it. I'm very spiritual about music because I feel like there's a kind of there's an energy in there that people can pick up on if they're open to it. Some people I've met now, they're just like, music is just a sound. But for some other people, it's a force that can kind of help them pull through things. It helps some people, and I feel like if you go to some shows, you can see that one person goes on stage with a mic, that can carry out to about 500 people who are out in the crowd. Music is one of those few ones that can almost transcend it. It becomes more than a sound for some people. I feel like you can move people with music, and you may not necessarily have to have lyrics in it. This thing we call emotional preparation, where we had to learn how to kind of become emotional on cue for acting for film. And although we were instructed by a voice, we had these soft violin strings behind it, and those on their own would have been able to move someone. So I feel the ability to move someone with or without words of music, I think, is really important, because it's almost like a universal language, I think.
And music is something that gives me solace, it gives me hope, it gives me enthusiasm, and I find music heals, music comforts. Whatever you do with it, whether the music be sad, whether it be jolly, whatever the music is, somehow it finds a place somewhere inside us that it touches. It touches memories, it touches emotions. You hear a song, you hear a symphony, you hear an opera, you go to a concert, whatever, it somehow resurrects memories, reminiscences of other places.
My closest relatives are in West Cork, so before you had all these bypasses and all these great roads, it would be maybe 4.5 hours drive. So rather than talk to your family, I mean, why would you want to talk to your family? We'd listen to tapes, and it would usually be the same tape over and over. It was either Johnny Cash, Dolly Parton, Mary Black, or those kind of nursery rhyme tapes you'd usually have that teach you how to count. And when you get to the age of 9 or 10, you kind of get fed up with it a little bit, because numbers kind of an existing thing to you. So we kind of got fed up with that. So I almost have every Dolly Parton, Mary Black, and Johnny Cash lyric committed to memory now. I love Johnny Cash, but the other two, it's like I can't listen to, because it's. Have you seen the Clockwork Orange when he's like sitting back in the chair and they're doing this to him, and they're playing, Singing in the Rain over and over, and he can't listen to the song anymore? It's like that with like Dolly Parton music to me now, because it's the same tape over and over and over and over, and I can't listen to it anymore. I just can't. It triggers me.
Well, I remember being in the Nook Bar in Youghal in 1959 with my father and his friend, and we were listening to Marty Robbins music, and it had a huge impact on me. I don't know why, it just did, and I think things happen out of the blue, and these can be the best thing.
You know, I'm inside my brain. I think I had a dream.
No, it was very isolated pockets of people. There was nobody in my class listening to Bob Dylan, but friends of mine, other people, 4 years older than me, 3 years younger than me, were listening to him. And you'd kind of gather around that record, and you'd have that in common. And there was a world outside of school. If you'd been bullied in school, if you weren't getting on in school, if your schoolwork wasn't good, if you were going nowhere, with these other people, you were going somewhere, because you can talk about this, what is essentially art.
Yes, I think so. I think the music that I created when I was in my band a few years ago helped me kind of work some stuff out of my system. It was very aggressive music, and I was kind of fed up at the time. I hated secondary school. I hated living at home, and making that music helped me work that out of my system. Whereas the music I'm composing now and I'm making now is more reserved, and it's more easy on the ears, because I feel like that's where I am in life. I'm not as wound up and not as hyper as I am before. I am more reserved, that I still have things to say, but I take my time saying it rather than having to scream it or shout it out. I feel like it just could be said more calmly and just, take my time to do it now, I think.
Now that's very sparse writing, because he's saying he was outside. And Bruce Springsteen went on to make an album called Darkness on the Edge of Town. The idea of being outside the town, either not being allowed into society in the inside of town, or being cast out outside of town. And he says it all in the opening line. And the song gets better all the way through. There's no bad lines in the song. That could be anywhere at any time. And it's during a personal crisis for this guy. But the point really is that it reached me, who was 13 or 14. That's what art can do. It can reach into your world and negate all of the stuff that blocks you from art and blocks you from certain kinds of thought, and open up your whole world in one song. For me, that song is Bob Dylan's The Ballad of Hollis Brown, yeah.
12 or 13 years ago, I had a quadruple bypass, and I was in Blackrock Clinic, and I had my operation, and I was in a coma, and they weren't certain whether I would survive or whether I'd be brain damaged. And I'm sort of lying there in intensive care, and they're shaking their heads and sort of checking me. And Bernadette, my partner, came into the hospital, and she said, "He loves music. Can we play some music?" And they said, "Well, it's not something we normally do." But she got a tape deck of some sort, and a tape and put it by my bed. And the music came on, and I turned my head to listen to the music. I'm alive. The music brought me back. I will always remember, I get quite emotional now. The music brought me back to life. And that's what I think about music.
Definitely helped me pull through the teenage years because everyone has up days and down days, and I think most teenagers, if not all teenagers, kind of look to music at some point because it's a lot of music subject matters, especially for that kind of rebellious, kind of heavier kind of genre, is a lot about dealing with internal problems, and some of it's going against society as well. And when you're at that age, you think all your problems are internal or against society, so it kind of relates to you in a way, you know.
Mostly it's a kind of isolation you could be. It depends on what you choose, what you want. If you think some people are important to you, and they don't allow you in, you're isolated from them. But if you don't believe that, if you believe people who are close to you, you're not isolated from that. So the isolation in ways is self-imposed. And I think it comes to whether you have an inner life or not. Whether society can tell you what you want, what you need, or whether you can say to yourself, I don't need these things. Yeah, well, I think the Sex Pistols album is one of the greatest albums of all time. I don't think the albums that came out by other people that came after it were great. I don't. I think that was a one-album revolution. Well, William Butler Yeats was wondering in one of his poems whether his poetry caused revolution in Ireland, and it didn't. But that was it's the same as your question. It doesn't. You know, economics, housing, health, education, those things cause revolution, not some song or some poem.
I don't like this idea of a musician going out and explaining what their lyrics mean. I feel like whatever someone believes they mean it means to them, because music is really much a subjective thing, and it means different things to different people, you know? If you listen to Revolution 9 by the Beatles, that could mean something completely different to you than it does to me. And I have no doubt that it does, because a lot of people the jury's still out on what that song means, you know?
I think a lot of people assimilated with the Beatles. Bob Dylan addressed the intelligence. You know, if I ever like anybody I see in the media, it's because they're addressing your intelligence. They're not insulting your intelligence. Most media insults your intelligence and assumes what you know is all you know. Whereas other people who are highly intelligent will say, I know more than that, or I don't feel like that. They're not my spokesman. And it's breaking down isolation is really important.
I wonder what we give to them. And I hope it's not the war and the anger and the fear and the discrimination and the inequality. I'd like to think there was something good of us that was bleeding into another parallel universe. Wouldn't you?
It's when you give up the journey you're in trouble. That's the true danger. You might end up playing golf.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?